You're listening to Kicked Back, presented by Uber One. Uber One is a membership that lets you save across Uber Eats, Uber Rides, and everything in between. Enjoy unlimited $0 delivery fees, 5% off of Eats, 5% off of rides, and if you join Uber One today, you can get your first month free. Visit uber.com/Uber1 for details. Great day to talk some football. What's up, everyone? You're listening to Kicked Back, presented by Uber One. Liam, how are you?
I'm good. Massive Bolton win yesterday, actually.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. We were down 1-0 to Burton going into the 87th minute.
Okay.
And Bakayoko puts one in the back of the net.
Okay.
1-1. 97th minute. John Daddy Bavardson wins the game. 2-1. Bolton win. Massive.
Massive wins for both of our teams.
Yes.
For those listening, I'm wearing my AC Milan cap today because we had a nice 4-0 win, which was much needed.
That was very
It was
necessary.
absolutely necessary. We'll talk about Chelsea here later in the show, but I did not give them nearly enough credit. I did not think that they do well, but since sacking Tuchel, Chelsea's been doing well.
That was their Achilles heel.
I'm starting to...
Things have changed a lot. It's a credit to Graham Potter and how good of a manager he is.
Honestly, okay, we'll get to Chelsea. It's just so much going on. We're also keeping an eye on, because right now as we're speaking, there are Champions League games happening. So Victoria Pleasant versus Inter. Inter needs to, if Inter tie or beat Victoria Pleasant, Barcelona are out of here.
Smell you later.
They're out of here. So we're keeping an eye on that. And then Liam brought up a great point. Club Brugge versus Porto. We got a lot of Canadian superstars in that matchup.
Mm-hmm. So if Club Brugge win, they've already qualified for the next round.
Yep.
But they secure first in the group.
Oh, wow.
So
nice.
it's a big game.
That's a huge game.
Yeah. So.
And we were just saying a second ago, we know that Tajon Buchanan has been out with injury here and there, but watching him play for Club Brugge right now is so hopeful for Canadian football fans, because this is our golden ticket guy.
He's gonna turn some heads at this World Cup.
I think so too.
I'm excited to watch him though.
You know who's not turning heads, or turning heads for all the wrong reasons? It's Juventus.
Yes.
I love it.
Turning heads, just spinning and spinning, just driving people crazy.
I know Juve fans, exactly that. Their heads are spinning nonstop, but honestly, for all the wrong reasons, Juventus are out of the Champions League. Lost to Benfica 4-0. They kind of had a little bit of a push towards the end, but too little, too late, and what a mess. What a mess for one of the most legendary Italian football clubs.
Yeah, well, the best in the last decade, right? Yep. Besides this last season, like they have been the pinnacle of Serie A, and it's interesting to think about because there was not really like a ton of competition for them during that 10 years. Obviously, teams competed and stuff. Like Napoli had a good year. I think Roma, Inter. But for the most part, like AC Milan and Inter weren't at their best of what they had been in the past. And now it's like, oh, well, these two teams are great again. And here's Juventus just falling down now that there's actually like competition. Like it's interesting timing.
Well, competition, then also massive question marks with certain results. Yeah. The only question I have is, how is Allegri still coach of this team?
I don't get it either. Like I do they not want to progress? Like, do they just not see the team is good enough to work under him at the same time? Then it's like, whoever's buying these players needs to also be sacked because you're not bringing in the right guys. Like Di Maria is obviously great, and he's been really good for them to his credit. But there's a lot of other guys. It's like, it's not going well, and I guess injuries have played a little bit. Like Pogba hasn't been able to play, but how much difference is one man going to make? Like it just needed an entire overhaul, or just something needs to change. And the season's gone. You're not winning Serie A. You're already out of the Champions League. At least if you sack Allegri or whoever, whatever changes you make, maybe you can get some momentum. Maybe you can go do something in the Europa League if you even get there at this point, because I'm pretty sure Maccabi Haifa now hold the... Sorry, no. The Juventus do. Goal difference is what's holding them up, because Maccabi Haifa got absolutely thumped by PSG yesterday, which was kind of too bad. But yeah, like... That's what I would do, I think. My plan would be, is like, okay, we're done in this competition, we're done in this one. let's go see what we can do in Europa League.
Well, the facts are Juventus is 8th in Serie A. They now failed to get out of their Champions League group for the first time since 2013. And I understand football is a team sport and you can't solely put it on one guy, but these are big losses, big exit out of these tournaments. And yeah, some of their roster's injured, but they still have really good players on the pitch. So you lose to teams like Monza and Maccabi Haifa, and then Allegri comes out of that game against Maccabi Haifa and says, it was a challenge, but it's even more beautiful now. What an odd thing to say after giving a team and a club their first Champions League win in 20 years to then go against Benfica and get bullied.
Yeah.
Like, don't let that scoreline fool you. Benfica played so well and completely took Juve out of it.
They were way better.
Right? So then we've seen coaches get sacked for way less. And at some point, the club has to ask themselves, what changes are we going to make? Because everything is on fire and they are choosing to ignore the problem.
Yeah. Well, they're 10 points off Napoli to win the Serie A right now. They are, 5 points out of a Champions League spot. Like, they might go into next season and not have European football. Like, we're seeing one of the best teams in the one of the best clubs in the world just crumble at the moment, and it's so odd to see. And I kind of mentioned it before, like Serie A does kind of go through these phases where like these big teams do fall down, and we've seen it in the Premier League too with like United coming back up a little bit, Arsenal, Liverpool right now to an extent, I suppose. So like it comes in waves, but it just seems very odd that like so many guys have left and like they've not been replaced with like quality. Like Buffon left, and like Szczesny's a good goalie, but he's not world class like Buffon was. Chiellini left, and he's not really been replaced that well. Like
Bonucci's old.
Bonucci's old, and like they've got good attackers. Like I like Vlahovic and Milik, another Polish guy, and the talent's there now. It's just like, how are you going to execute to make this team great again and like get back into the Serie A, which is becoming so great again? And Juventus is falling off, and they're being replaced with Napoli, Lazio, Atalanta, Roma. Udinese's higher than them in the league right now. Like Udinese almost got relegated last season.
You know what? And we were talking about this offline, and we'll talk about it in the episode. One of our problems with Barcelona is that we love Xavi as a footballer who played the game, one of the best. But as a manager, he's not doing the game-to-game things and fixing those areas that need to be fixed for the next game. And that's obvious with Allegri, with this Juventus team. There have been so many things that need to be cleaned up and they haven't been addressed. And that's why Juventus keeps seeing these losses that are completely unexplainable. Monza. Maccabi, Monza's getting thumped by many teams, and Juve somehow lost to them. And to me, you can't chalk that up to like, an off day when they're now facing a Champions League exit. And that's the tough reality for managers, right? Like we've been talking about it since the start of our Kicked Back show. There have been many managers who have been sacked that we said it's undeserving or it's deserving, but at the end of the day, their job is to kind of address these issues, create that change, make that, pivotal change in the lineup, in tactics, and whatever it has to be to come out the next day and be better. So I don't know. Everyone's saying that Juventus has to call Zinedine Zidane to do the job. He did say, Zidane said he is going to return to coaching. Rumor has it that he's waiting for the French national job to open up. But man, would I love to see him come and maybe take on a Juventus. I'm trying to think of another team that it would be sick to see Zidane in the Premier League.
There was talk about him coming to United,
which would have been unreal.
Yeah, it's Zidane to Juventus. That would be cool. That would be good to see.
He's bigger than Juve.
Yeah, he is. He
right?
is, and he's a legend there too. And how do I word this? I don't like seeing these. I like seeing the best teams be the best. Like, and obviously it's good to have like Cinderella stories, like the Leicester when they won the Premier League.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like, even Napoli this season. But I like the Champions League because you see the best against the best. And Juventus just haven't brought their best at all. And yeah, they just gotta find that piece. And Allegri's not it. Like, everyone spoke about it before the season even started. Like, this won't be good. And now here we are. They're in 8th in Serie A, heading to the Europa League with not a lot of promise down the road at the moment, unfortunately.
He has the most job security I've ever seen.
It's crazy. Only Brendan Rodgers matches him with Leicester.
I don't understand, but, definitely, and this is an empathetic comment from me, it's definitely a tough situation for Juventus fans to be in. I feel bad to an extent for Juve fans because, again, everything's on fire, and instead of management looking at the situation and saying, changes. At this point, changes have to be done. They're like, Allegri stays.
Yeah.
We're choosing to ignore it. Like, that one meme with like the house on fire in the background?
Everything's fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. That's Juve right now.
Yeah, the one I was thinking of too is the, Kermit the Frog when he's sipping the tea. He's like, this is none of my business.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like the Juventus board is right now. It's like, Allegri's burning the place down. It's like, that doesn't matter to me.
We should make both those memes and put them out on the 90th minute.
That would be good. Actually, sorry, quickly, I mentioned Brendan Rodgers. Did by chance you see his quote?
No.
From the weekend? So they played I can't remember who they played, but he made an excuse that the reason his team lost was because they played at 12:30 and heat affected them. Oh. It was 16 degrees.
So you took a page out of Klopp's book.
Yeah. It's perfectly good weather to be playing football in. And
wait, what was the weather?
16 degrees.
That's actually the perfect climate.
Yeah. That's like, what's that, like 66 Fahrenheit, I think, something like that. So, yeah, like, for whatever reason, blame the weather. Well, meanwhile, they've just had the warmest summer in British history, like one of the warmest ever, and they couldn't win then, and now it's getting colder and they still can't win. And James Maddison is injured.
I live for those quotes, by the way, guys. I live for Klopp and all these guys saying stuff like that because it's just when you hear it, they're deflecting.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Benfica, we need to give Benfica a shout out because, like I said, don't let that score fool you. Juve was out of that game for a large majority of it. And Benfica right now, obviously qualified for the round of 16, top in the Portuguese league, 20 games unbeaten in all competitions, and just the potential for a sleeper team right now. Like Benfica fans, it was interesting. I was kind of looking at their how they were talking about the Juve Benfica game, and they were saying that they were actually upset at Benfica for letting Juve not almost get back into it, but score those late goals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's just such a high standard set for this club that the players are playing up to, but the fans hold them to a high standard too. That I'm like, this is a team that could probably make some noise if they keep on this path.
Well, it's funny, isn't it, when you get Champions League is the winner. They're the winners. They're the champions. So yeah, Benfica is a very historic club. Like, they win a lot in the Portuguese league. So yeah, the fans, it's funny because we won't think of that. Like, like Maccabi Haifa going to Juventus. Like, it's like, Juventus should walk all over them. And it's like, well, Maccabi Haifa is a champion. They're the champions of Israel, and they have a high standard to how they should perform. And yeah, it's funny. I guess sometimes we don't think of the other perspective of it, and yeah, that's a good example of Benfica right there. Like, their fans have standards, and they're expected to be hit,
which I love.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's awesome.
PSG versus Maccabi Haifa, because we're talking about Maccabi Haifa a lot. I was praying that this would be like a 2-time upset for this team. But PSG, man, Liam, I know this is your pick to win the Champions League. They just are such an offensive threat. It's disgusting how good their offense is.
What is it? I think Waz made a video on it, or put something out before the other players scored on PSG, Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar. It's got the last 18 goals or something like that for PSG.
Yeah, I believe 18 was the number.
Which is nuts to see. They're so good, and obviously we all know that, but yeah, this game you never expect a 7-2, but I wasn't that surprised to see PSG walk all over them. I wish it was just a little bit closer, but PSG, I think, is just trying to get back in the rhythm of things. Neymar came out flying to start the season, and he's been good, obviously, to maintain it, but then you got to give balance to your team. You got to give them a break every now and then. I think that's what happened in a couple of games off, and now it feels like they're right back in it again. So PSG, they're dangerous. We haven't heard anything from Mbappe in a couple of weeks since we spoke about him. So
honestly,
maybe that's quieted down a little bit, which is good for them.
despite the score line, because I know my takes on PSG, I want them to prove me wrong. I'd love to see Messi win the Champions League with PSG and Neymar and Mbappe to do well. It's just my favorite takeaway from that game was seeing the big three, if you want to call them that, happy. They're hugging, they're happy, they're celebrating, they're passing to each other. And 2 goals for Messi, 2 goals for Mbappe, 1 for Neymar. Mbappe having 4 goals and 3 assists in his last 2 matches. Like, this guy's on fire. We always are talking about Erling Haaland, but Mbappe's in that conversation as well. Just when those 3 are on, and of course there's other players around them, Hakimi being one of them, they're such an offensive threat. But again, I'm still very hesitant with this PSG team because I want to know what they look like when they're taking on, let's throw out a Benfica, a Napoli, Real Madrid, a City, how their defense handles a good offensive threat and also how they're able to play and resume their style of play when they're taking on a top club team.
Yeah, because it's kind of something that's, they went to the Champions League final. What was that, 2020, I think it was? And they lost to Bayern, yeah. And they lost to Bayern. So, but besides that, we keep seeing them stumble against the bigger teams. Not bigger teams, I guess, bigger level teams. And yeah, this is it now. You've got this big three, you're going out, you're winning every game you're supposed to win in the Champions League, and now what's next? Yeah. What are you gonna do now that you've qualified for this next round? What if they play a AC Milan, for example, or even Leipzig, who we'll get to eventually, who just beat Real Madrid,
with a really good player.
Yeah, yeah.
That everyone's talking about right now.
So, even Liverpool, Liverpool's going to be up for grabs against PSG. It's going to be some interesting second round qualifying games, and kind of hope PSG gets a really good team just to kind of prove themselves a little bit. They
need to, and I think that's a great way to put it. I think that they're, of course, a good team with great players, but for me, I think that's the best way to put it, Liam. They still have to prove themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's like City as well, right? The only team that has really proven themselves, I guess there's a couple, Liverpool. Liverpool won not that long ago. Real Madrid have won, obviously, multiple times. Bayern Munich recently. And then you have the next level of even, we'll throw Barcelona in there. They're obviously more than likely not going to be in the Champions League final this year, but them, City and PSG, I would put as those next 3 teams as okay, it's time to prove yourself. And I would say Barcelona's a little bit further back than City and PSG, but eventually there's kind of the 3.
One thing I want to note is just how, I love that you have all this streaming, guys. We're multitasking here. Yes. We're watching Champions League football and we're delivering our thoughts from yesterday's matches, but how easy and effortless Messi makes the game look is truly an honor. I feel like when I watch him, I'm so grateful to be watching Messi do what he does, because people are like, he's playing Maccabi Haifa, he should be doing this. But no, that's a talent and skill set that Messi has on his own. The way he finds a lane, the way he's able to execute these moments, having 2 goals and 2 assists in a game. He's 37. How old is he actually?
34. Ronaldo's 37.
He's 34 years old. This guy right now, has the most group stage goals in Champions League history with 78, has 11 goals total this season, and that was his overall goal total last season. He's feeling himself right now, and this is why I say Messi's taking Argentina to the promised land. Messi's going to win a World Cup. He's finding his stride. He still has a little bit more left in the tank to kind of find that next level, and I think he's going to peak at the right time in Qatar. But just how seamless and effortless this guy is when he plays, I'm blown away every time.
If Messi and Argentina win the World Cup, I think Messi is locked up the Ballon d'Or before the season even continues on. He's already off to such a great start with PSG compared to what he did last season. He has 15 goals overall, 12 assists with international games in there too. So, he's well on track. Obviously, Haaland's having a great season with City, Neymar too with PSG. But, I feel like winning the World Cup is really going to put, a stamp on who's going to win the Ballon d'Or. Haaland's not going.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So that he's going to have to do a lot of work, I think, to put himself... If I was to rank them right now, I would say Haaland is probably the likely winner of the Ballon d'Or, but I think Neymar and Messi both have that trump card over him because they're going to the World Cup, and they are they're legends in their own country, right? They're legends of the game, but I think just bringing the World Cup to those places is going to Almost got
Almost
one.
a goal. And you know what? I totally agree with you. And with the Ballon d'Or, sometimes I get frustrated. You guys know, hearing me speak on the show often, and I think what Haaland is doing is, again, we're witnessing him make history. But if Messi wins the World Cup in probably his last ever World Cup, let's assume that, he should win the Ballon d'Or. And the same thing, if Neymar is able to do something special, the same thing with Neymar, because they are legends, like you said, in their own right. At that point, let them go out with every accolade that they deserve. And at that point, it would be the most well-deserved win of his entire career.
Yeah, it would be. I think I've said this before, but Neymar is such an intriguing player because he feels like he's great. Like, he is going to go down as one of the best players ever to play. And he feels like he's one of those guys that just kind of went away for a couple of years, and we just kind of all forgot how good he is. And what is he? He's like second all time in Brazilian. Let me look this up before I go on a little tangent.
He was one of, while you look it up, one of our best generational talents, but I think injuries kind of plagued him.
Definitely.
And I think that's kind of where he took some time off, and then there was some drama with PSG. Watch his documentary on Netflix. It's so good.
Yeah, I do have to get
It's so good. And I think because of injuries and then him maybe not fitting as well as he wanted to in with this PSG team, now he's kind of back to full health. He's finding his stride. Him and Messi go way back, man. Even to Barcelona days. He loves playing with him, and we're seeing him, I'm praying, find the old Neymar before Brazil enter this World Cup.
75 goals in 121 games for Brazil.
Nuts, man.
So he's second all time behind Pele, who had 77 and 92.
Shut up.
Yeah.
He's right behind Pele.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly to your point. You would never think that.
No, you wouldn't.
Think about how many other players. The Brazilian Ronaldo.
There's third.
Rivaldo.
Seventh.
Robinho.
Yeah, like these Ronaldinho.
These are all.
Zico.
Yeah.
There's so many guys.
Pato was one of them back in the day.
Yeah.
These are such good strikers. And Neymar's ahead of them.
He's going to be I would imagine he gets ahead of Pele pretty quick here. He needs 2 goals. So he's obviously like 30 more games than Pele, but he's not like Pele won 3 World Cups. Neymar hasn't won any, which kind of shows the level of talent that Pele was playing with compared to Neymar.
Yes.
So it's very impressive. And he's one of those guys he's obviously in the conversation. He's a great football player, but yeah, he just feels like someone who's maybe slipped through the cracks a little bit. And now he's coming back and being like, everyone's like, oh yeah, this guy is really, really good. And
I hate, you guys know how I feel. Everyone's like, oh, he's playing well because he's in a Farmers League. No, because he's just that good. To be second on that list for all-time scores for one of the best countries in our game.
Probably the best.
I would assume that.
Yeah.
I would say that, and I have no problem, fighting the trolls. He is an unreal generational talent, and so many players have came out to say that he's the hardest player to play against because of his speed and how quick his feet move. So I hope there's 2 guys I'd love to win the Golden Boot at this World Cup, and it'd be Benzema and Neymar. One of those 2.
Mine's Harry Kane or Raheem Sterling.
Dude, I read a crazy stat the other day. It said Harry Kane has never won a trophy in his career.
No, because he plays for Tottenham.
Yeah, but that's wild to think about.
It is funny, isn't it? Yeah, just one of those clubs that just can never get over the line. Like, he's been to a Champions League final. He's been to a Euro 2020 final, right? But yeah, just never.
He's another guy that I think is slipped through the cracks, unfortunately for him.
He needs to win a trophy with Tottenham, even if it's just like an FA Cup or something. Like,
he needs to win a World Cup.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
He needs to win a World Cup.
Nice.
Sidebar, because this was a Manchester City, Dortmund, both getting through to the round of 16. Did you see that penalty kick that Mahrez missed for
Have
City?
You seen he's missed
like 100?
so many. I saw a lot of people on Twitter were like, how is this guy still taking penalties?
So that's what I wanted to say. Okay, so he missed one against Copenhagen when the score was 0-0, and then he missed one against Dortmund when the score was 0-0. So City could have easily won that game. Not easily, but they could have with that penalty kick if he scored it. That was his 25th missed penalty under Pep out of 80 attempts.
Whoa.
So
he had 80 attempts?
80
too?
attempts.
That's crazy.
Pep is handing out tryouts and I get what Pep was probably trying to do. Like, let's give this guy some confidence. He missed the one against Copenhagen. He's going to bury this one. But to be quite honest, there's one thing my dad always told me when I played. He said, when you take a penalty, because I was a player who would take penalties, he said the easiest goal for a goalie to save, the easiest ball is one in mid-range. When it's not too high, when it's not too low, all they have to do is dive and stick out their hand essentially when it's in their wheelhouse. So he goes, always keep it low. High is a risk for me. Like I would somehow kind of get it lower, but keeping it low, keeping it to the ground, I always had a good success rate with that. Mahrez is hitting the mid-range. And I mean, it was a great save by Kobel, but to miss that many, Pep has to stop handing out these like attempts for him.
Have you ever heard that apparently the best penalty taker on City is Edison?
Really?
Apparently in practice, he has like a perfect record. Like he hits them every single time. But obviously, like he doesn't take them in game. I actually think he might have taken one before. I can't remember. But there's apparently in practice, like, set piece maestro, like hits all his free kicks, hits every penalty, but they obviously don't want to march him up the field just in case he misses. But yeah, like with a team that good with so many talented players, like how is Haaland not taking him? I've seen him scoring for Dortmund multiple times.
I think Haaland was on the bench at that point. I think he took him off.
Okay. But like there's just endless players.
Yeah, no, I know.
There's so many guys. It's like how you'd have to imagine this is the last time, right? But also, if he's taking 80, I'm not sure if it is the last time.
Pep, man, I feel like Pep's like, I just want to get this guy's confidence back. But you got to somehow, like, reality. Messi's good at scoring goals, a great free kick taker, but he's average, you know, and maybe a little below average when it comes to taking penalties. It's not a knock on Messi, but just sometimes these guys aren't the person to take the penalty.
We all have our flaws.
We do. You sometimes see goalkeepers go and take a penalty because they're good at it. Yeah. Mara's not the guy, Pep.
Not the guy.
Listen to us.
No, that's very interesting, isn't it? It just, I don't know. You get it if you're a team, say he was still on Leicester. Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, Mahrez is our best player, so he's going to take the penalties. And then it's like, what the heck? And now he's on City. It's like, your second team is better than half the teams in the world.
Honestly, yeah. I feel bad for Mahrez, but at the same time, I'm like, That's a Pep. I think a mishap on Pep's part.
I think if the situation was more crucial, somebody else would be taking the penalty.
100%. I agree. That's true. Real Madrid. No stress about this 3-2 loss because they're fine. But what's crazy is that Leipzig are the first team to beat Real Madrid this season. So Real Madrid were on a 20-game unbeaten streak, and that was their first loss since May 8th. It is October 26th. That is wild.
That is a pretty good win. It's
honestly, if I'm anyone on Leipzig, I'm flexing on that for the rest of the year. I'm like, we gave Real Madrid their first loss.
I'm sure they beat them a few seasons ago too, which is kind of nuts. But yeah, like Leipzig's kind of been on a weird run in Bundesliga. Like, they started off poorly. I'm pretty sure they sacked their manager. They were like 19th. Now they've kind of climbed back up. They're in 8th now. So they're getting back to their standards again. But yeah, like I guess for Real Madrid, like sometimes you just take those nights off. Like Benzema didn't play. Yeah. Carvajal didn't play. Like Rudiger played left back. There was like some Mendy didn't play. Yeah. There was like a bunch of players out. Obviously it didn't matter too heavily, but for Leipzig, like they needed that win to like keep progressing into the Champions League. Like Shakhtar, I believe, was kind of knocking on the door a little bit. Yeah, like Shakhtar, if they didn't win, they'd be level with Shakhtar right now and probably compete. Like they're probably going to qualify now for the next round. But for Real Madrid, It doesn't mean a lot to me, you know. Like
it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was interesting because when you'd see Carlo Ancelotti's face, he still looked pissed off, and that's what I love about him is he's like, this is unacceptable from players. You know, some of the star players aren't playing, but we should still be winning.
A standard of winning. Exactly, right?
That's why I'm not worried about this Real Madrid team is they have the right manager in place who knows what he's doing. But then Leipzig, you know, one guy in particular, everyone's talking about right now, Christopher Nkunku, French footballer, 24 years old, plays up top, scored against Real Madrid and finished the game with a 90% passing accuracy rate, which I love to see because passing to me is huge, right? Like if you have a striker who can score goals but is also really good at keeping the ball, he's a good player. Everyone's talking about right now which big club he's going to sign to, and the rumor is that Chelsea's like all over him.
Well,
they need him.
Yeah, they do.
They need him.
I was surprised. Actually, Kai Havertz actually had a really nice goal yesterday, to his credit. I was going to tweet about it, then I decided, you know what, I've said too many bad things. I can't go back on my word. But Nkunku, like, he he had a great season last year, like Ballon d'Or nominee. I think he finished in the top. Might have been 11th or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I didn't scan after number 2, I'll be honest. So, yeah, he's not quite getting as many as like last season. He had 13 assists, which is nuts.
Yeah.
20 goals, but right now 8 assists in Bundesliga, and I think 8 goals. And I think that was kind of a reason why they weren't doing as well. Like he wasn't producing as much as he was, but he's a great player, and I would love to see him come to the Premier League. But yeah, like high end. He's only 24.
Yep.
So Chelsea would be a good spot. Probably Manchester United too. Like I think those 2 teams are going to be in the conversation for him. And then who knows? Like maybe Barcelona. Like maybe if they kind of can't get things going and give Lewandowski a bit of run support, then maybe Nkunku's a guy who could go there.
I'd love to see him at Chelsea. We'll talk about the rumors around Chelsea right now, but they need that depth up top.
Yeah.
So it'd be like the perfect fit, to be quite honest.
Would.
Who knows? I'm not a fan of United right now, and Barcelona fans have rubbed me the wrong way. So I'd like for him to go to Chelsea. But quickly, before we move on from Real Madrid, fun fact here, because they lost, Napoli and PSG remained the only 2 unbeaten teams in Europe's top 5 leagues. That's crazy to think about.
It's crazy to think that Napoli is one of those teams in such a competitive Serie A.
When there's a day, if this happens, that there's not so much happening on, we should dedicate a full or half episode to Napoli and what they're doing this year.
Yeah, we should. There's a guy on TikTok. I quite like watching his videos.
We'll get him on.
Yeah, we can talk to him. I won't tease his name.
Okay.
I got it in my head.
That's crazy though, no? Like Napoli and PSG.
It's nuts. It's nuts. Especially like we've said it before, but like the amount of players that have left Napoli, especially. Like PSG doesn't surprise me overly, just obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But Napoli, like crazy. Just like they've obviously got the Kvaratskhelia, I believe is I've been practicing.
Is that the Cavadonna?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's how you say his name. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna keep going. But he has turned that team around, and honestly, it is unbelievable how this guy just came from absolutely nowhere. Like he was playing in the Georgian Premier League last season, and now here we are talking about him as he's one of the best players in the world. And it's unbelievable that Napoli, like credit to Napoli being like, oh wow, this guy is going to step in. And I had kind of heard like a couple of things about him over the summer. People being like, you know, when you see those articles, it's like players to watch. And he was like one of them. And like, and I watched him, I was like, holy smokes. Like the things he can do, there's very, very few players in the world that can do what he do. And I think that's a big reason, that is the big reason why Napoli have just been able to do it. And it just a massive credit to that team. Just the talent they have is not as good as it has been in the past, yet somehow they're producing.
But that's exactly that. There's just such a team. And I've said this before on the show. I would have loved Ronaldo to go there for obvious reasons. I don't like what's happening at United, but I respect Napoli because I have a feeling that Napoli is the one who said no. And I respect the hell out of Napoli's management for that, because if you don't need Ronaldo there, don't bring him when your team's able to do it on their own. Yeah,
it was actually, I read about this kind of when the rumors were speculating around, and I can't remember exactly who it was. It might have been the president, or like director of football, whatever he was at Napoli, basically came out and said like, we would love to have Ronaldo on our team, but we're not going to pay the price for the amount of money he makes. And also, apparently, they wanted Osimhen.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're not going to give up Osimhen for Ronaldo. Like, it just wouldn't make sense for us at the moment to do that.
And how much respect do you have to have for them to, like, have that gut feeling? And, you know, they saw Osimhen, they saw something they really liked in him. They were like, he can fit in our game plan right here, and we're going to stick with him over one of the greatest players of all time.
Like, and think of, this kind of leads into our next point, but like the way you can market around him. Yeah. Ronaldo. And they just like, no, we're good. We got our guys. We're gonna go do our thing. And then boy, oh boy, they are doing their thing, to say the least. We'll
do an episode dedicated to them for sure at some point, because I feel like they're going to be in the Champions League for a while longer. I mean, I would love to see them win. Imagine they win Serie A and win the Champions League.
Oh, it'd be crazy. They're just, you can't do that well in the league and not become a threat in the Champions League. Like, I said it when we did the previews. I really do think this team could do something. Now, luckily for me, they've kind of proven it pretty well. So hopefully they can keep going. You love to see those teams kind of progress, and overcome obstacles, I guess you could say. So yeah, great for them. Now, just sidebar. This game is awesome.
Really?
I'm kind of, every time I look at it, there's a chance.
Okay, and Liam's talking about Club Brugge Porto right now.
And Eustachio had a big one, put
Nice.
it over the bar, but there's been a lot
chances
for a 0-0 game.
Yeah, and I just checked Victoria Pleasant and Inter, and we have 0-0 right now, which I'm sure when you guys hear this episode, we'll know the full results. Yeah. But we're keeping an eye on everything. But yeah, rumor has it that Chelsea wants Ronaldo in January. And it seems as though this is all stemming from Chelsea's new owner, Todd Boehly. And apparently, this is why Tuchel's career ended at Chelsea, because Tuchel didn't want Ronaldo to come on board. I'm living for the drama around all of this. To be quite honest, right now, I'm reading like every rumor discussion board right now. But I like Tuchel. This guy had big dreams of winning everything solely on defending. It doesn't work that way. If this were to happen, I do think it would benefit all parties. Ronaldo would give that depth up top that Chelsea needs. I definitely don't think Ronaldo's finished. I think right now he's getting a lack of minutes and inconsistent minutes, which you can argue with me all you guys want, but a footballer can't have a career year if that's happening to them. And I think that Ronaldo needs to get the hell away from Ten Hag and United. So if these two guys, if Chelsea's Todd Boehly and Ronaldo came together, joined forces, and it were to become successful, Todd Boehly would look like a genius, like an absolute genius, high risk, high reward.
So I have two thoughts on this.
Okay, let's hear it.
So when it initially was rumored in, what was it, August, September, whatever it was, I didn't like the idea because I like legacy. Like, I like players building a legacy. And I thought if Ronaldo was to go to Chelsea, it would really dampen his legacy at Manchester United. However, a lot has changed. However,
United has dampened Ronaldo's legacy.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, like they've not helped him progress. And now I don't think United fans would be that upset if he left to go to Chelsea. The Tuchel thing is interesting because Tuchel supposedly really back for Aubameyang to come. Well, Ronaldo's better than Aubameyang, so I can see why that kind of put a bit of divide in the club. And thirdly, to just peel off the Aubameyang thing too, like it's not like Aubameyang come in and just lit it up. Like he has 2 goals, both against Milan, ironically enough for us on this show, but they still need that striker. And Ronaldo had 18 Premier League goals last season. Wherever they're coming from, he scored them. The ball went in the net, and that's what matters. And Graham Potter has done an unbelievable job since he's come into Chelsea, and I think he can manage any player in the world, to be honest. And lastly, on the Boehly, why I think it would work for him. So Boehly's obviously an American owner, and I think in North America, especially in the US, marketing talent is a massive thing. Like obviously the NBA is huge, and the way they market their talents, and I think he's probably seen it from that perspective too. It's like I can grow my team in the United States where I live. Like Chelsea obviously is a known team, but got caught there was a little half volley there. That was close. So if Boehly got Ronaldo, I think it would boost Chelsea's market a lot more in the United States, also China and like everywhere else in the world. He's an icon, and I think that's where Boehly's seeing it too. Is one, he can still play. There's no disputing that, and two, from a marketing perspective, he's only going to improve the stock of Chelsea Football Club.
So I don't know much about Todd Boehly. I'm going to be honest.
I know he likes all-star games.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. This is what I will say about him. I respect that he has the balls to come into this position and say the Premier League needs an all-star game and Chelsea should buy Cristiano Ronaldo in a time where Ronaldo is facing the most adversity in his career and everyone is absolutely shitting on him. Let's get him. Let's put him under a good coach now because let's be honest, Chelsea looks much different now than they did with Tuchel, and give him the opportunity because like you said, he scored 18 Premier League goals last season on a United team that I think everyone was forgetting was shit. And Ronaldo found a way.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Right? So honestly, Ronaldo comes into this Chelsea team, gives them that depth up top, actually has consistency and respect from a club. Todd Boehly looks like a genius. And I think at some point then everyone has a conversation. This random American guy with a lot of money who came into the club is making the right moves.
I'm just looking here now. So Boehly owns 20% of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he's also a part owner of the Los Angeles Sparks. He's also the owner of fantasy sports company DraftKings.
So he knows what he's doing. This guy knows how to make money.
If anyone knows, and like maybe a lot of our listeners don't, but the LA Dodgers are easily right. Like it's basically them, the Yankees and the Red Sox is the biggest teams, biggest names in baseball. And the Dodgers have everyone. Like they have every single star in baseball. Most of them anyway. They're linked with everyone. They just splash the cash. And that's what they truly do every single time. Like Aaron Judge is being discussed to go there now. They would probably have to make him the highest paid player ever, and they wouldn't care. They would just do it. And it feels like that's what Bowley wants to kind of implement into Chelsea a little bit too. And they have had that with Abramovich in the past as well. Like he really did just go and buy whatever he wanted. So it was successful, and the Dodgers have won World Series recently, and Bowley clearly has an idea of how to make this work. And we both said it. Like we didn't think Chelsea was that good under Tuchel. We thought there was a lot of improvement that needed to come, and clearly so did Todd Bowley. He made the right decision to get rid of Tuchel. Now he is arguably one of the best managers in the Premier League. Like when you really put it into perspective, like I would say Graham Potter's probably top 3, if that's not too much of a shout. Like he's right up there with Guardiola in the way he can just like make this team work so well under a manager who is world class under Tuchel. And I think Tuchel's a very good manager, but Potter has come in and taken his team to another level, and Bowley's seeing that, and he's now giving him my extra firepower to go and do it.
Honestly, you know what? I think outside looking, and maybe a lot of Premier League fans are like, who's this random American coming to our league trying to change things? But the thing is he's clearly a businessman, and he's seen success, and he knows how to make money. Yeah. And maybe this guy he's one of those men who look at something, they're like, okay, this is the right decision because he's just so good at what he does, and he knows how to call it when he sees it. So, I mean, this is something that I definitely would love to see happen. I'd love to see Ronaldo go to Chelsea. I do not like Chelsea. I would buy a Cristiano Ronaldo Chelsea jersey solely because of what's happening to him at United, and I'd want to see him succeed at Chelsea. And then at that point, if he was given that opportunity and it proved success for him, I think that I'd say Todd Bowley is just so smart, and he made the complete right decision. Because Liam, we were saying with Tuchel that, at least for me, Chelsea's not going to do well in the Champions League. They just topped the group under Potter. Like how much of a change? Like this is what goes to show Juve needs to take notes here. A change in management, which I know a lot of people, I believe it was Thierry Henry who said, Juventus needs to give Allegri more time. And a lot of people were saying the same thing about Tuchel with Chelsea. But maybe that change in just a manager and how he views the team in terms of tactics and decisions that need to be made can turn things around. And that's what we're seeing with Chelsea. They gave Salzburg their first... They just gave them their first loss in 40 matches at home across all competitions. It's not an easy thing to do. And again, Chelsea, I wrote them off, and they're killing it.
Yeah, I'm just looking here to see. So it was right after they lost to Zagreb in the Champions League is when Tuchel got sacked. Chelsea haven't lost a game since. They're barely conceding goals. I'm looking here. They conceded yesterday against Salzburg, United, and then in the Premier League, they've conceded once in the Premier League in 5 games. Twice. 5 games, conceded 2 goals. It's not bad.
I mean, you know what? That change made me eat my words. Because I don't think I had Chelsea doing well at all.
No, I didn't either. And I don't like to say this, but Brighton are falling quite far down the table now without Graham Potter. So it just kind of shows the level of manager he is.
All right. Well, there we go. We'll keep an eye on that. But right now, speaking of managers, there is a new manager of Aston Villa. And I saw your tweet yesterday. Don't understand this move, Liam.
So I've thought about this actually probably way too much. But
no, it's good because I did too. I listened to about like 15 videos of people talking about this because I wanted to understand how people are digesting this move.
This, for some reason, reminds me a lot of when Ancelotti went to Everton.
Okay, probably. Like why?
Why?
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand. Like Villa in England is a big team. They have a lot of good support. Mm-hmm. A lot of good players have come through there. But right now, what are they, like 4 points above relegation?
Very close to relegation zone.
And the only reason that is because they beat Brentford over the weekend, I think it was, which also really grinds my gears, which I'll touch on quickly. So you can't score goals at all under Steven Gerrard. You did not look good at all. And then all of a sudden you can go and score 4 against Brentford, who are a very good team in the Premier League. Like, they beat United earlier this season. It just like really grinds me when you see these players. They clearly had given up on Gerrard.
Do you think, hearing you say that, do you think, in your opinion, that must have been... Do you think maybe Gerrard lost the locker room? Do you think maybe there was tension between him and the players, where the players were like, "We don't care"?
He must have. It must have been something like that. Yeah. Because it's just, you don't just flip a switch. I guess it's two ways. It could be that way, or like, we just got this guy sacked because we weren't doing well enough. Like, we've got to be better now.
True.
It's got to go either way. Yep. Either way, like,
it's crazy.
You lost him at his job, and now here we are. So anyway, with the Emery thing, you've gone from Villarreal, who are one of the better teams in Spain. Oh, we got to go. Number 8. Porto. Nice. I don't know who that was. Anyway, back to my rant. So, Villarreal went to the Champions League semi-final last year. 4 points out of a Champions League spot now. And a really progressing team. One that's kind of getting back to where they belong in in La Liga. And then you go to Villa, who is 4 points above a relegation spot, whose big summer signing was Philip Coutinho, who hasn't been good for like 6 years. It just seems like such a backwards move, and I think it's got to be a redemption thing for him. It has to be, because it didn't end well at Arsenal for him. And I don't know, it's just weird to go from managing like PSG, Sevilla, Valencia, Arsenal, Villarreal to Aston Villa. Like, I don't get it.
So I think, and I completely agree, because he's a manager who's super experienced, has success in La Liga, who's well liked in La Liga, and has managed good players. This guy knows what he's doing, right? But I think if you think back to the last time he was in the Premier League with Arsenal, fans weren't happy with him. I was saying to you, Liam, like off camera, that the first season was good, but the second season it seemed like Arsenal went in a completely different direction. But the thing that I think isn't talked enough about was the context of that situation, because I believe Wenger was just out. After 22 seasons, Emery was the guy who came in to replace Wenger. So think about it, for over 2 decades, the players, the club, and even the media had only known one guy, and that was Wenger. So Emery was put into a position, not only like big shoes to fill, but every little thing that went wrong was probably inflated. Exactly. Yeah. Super criticized, and a job that he knew when he took was going to be extremely, like, it was a pressure cooker. Now, I'm not saying Emery didn't make any mistakes, because there were a lot of things that, he probably in hindsight would have done differently. But I think, like you said, this is going to be almost a redemption for him. Like, I can come back into the best league in the world, take this team that maybe doesn't have the highest of expectations, and turn it around, and then respect will be put on my name.
Yeah, and Villa have a lot of good players. Like, Ramsey's a guy I like in the midfield. Ollie Watkins is really good. Like, the Diego Carlos is also another one. He's been injured quite a bit for them this season. But there's a lot of talent there, and Martinez, another one, the goalie. So it shouldn't take a lot to turn it around, I guess. Emery's obviously a really good manager. He won the Europa League however many times.
Yeah.
And it's a good hire for Villa. I was a little surprised. I did think it was going to kind of come from within England, I suppose. But just shows the pull of the Premier League, too, that they're able to attract these massive managers for teams who are not doing well at all. So... yeah, I guess we'll see how he goes. I think he'll do well. I was never really worried about Villa being relegated because of the squad that they have, and I kind of feel that way about Leicester too, to be honest. So we'll see. Who do they even have coming up here? They have Newcastle on the weekend. Definitely not being Newcastle. My boys, my tunes.
You know what? I like it because, hold on. Let's look at his record with Arsenal when he was there. 43 wins, 15 draws, 20 losses in all competitions, finished 1 point out of the top 4 in his only full season, lost the Europa League final, and then fired after 18 months. I think this might be something that maybe I'm not Emery, obviously. Maybe it haunts him a little because he knows how good of a manager he is, which has been proven in La Liga. And he's like, okay, now I want to come back and rewrite what my name looks like in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, he is leaving a team that's good and in a league that he knows, you know, maybe he's comfortable in at this point. And he's like, okay, now I'm going to switch it up because this is a challenge and, you know, almost challenge accepted.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because you go back and look through his managerial career. And so he managed Valencia, had a 48% win record, left them in May 2012, came back to the Serie A. I keep saying Serie A, La Liga. Managed Sevilla for 3 years, 51 win percentage. And then he came back again after he stint at Arsenal, Villarreal, to a 50 win percentage. So, like, he's clearly a man that likes to go back and prove himself over and over again. So
why not?
Hopefully he does well. Villa's it's good. They have a lot of good players, a lot of good English players too. So
I agree.
Selfishly, I wouldn't mind seeing him do a bit better.
I was cracking up. So many people on Twitter were like, he loves the teams that have Villa in it, like Sevilla, Villarreal, Aston Villa. They're like, he's attracted to all the villas.
Yeah.
So I think that's funny. Best of luck, because Aston Villa has probably one of the most hardcore fan bases
It is.
I've seen ever. And that's going into my take about Barcelona fans here in a second. So I hope that he has success there. And I hope he rewrites his legacy in the Premier League, because I think he was put in a tough situation, and I think maybe now a few years later it might look a little different for him.
Yeah.
So, but speaking of Barcelona, Inter's beating Victoria Pleasant 1-0 right now.
I'm shocked.
Liam, what are you gonna do when you know your take from what two months ago now is absolutely accurate? Tell the people.
Probably gonna have a nice warm bath, bubbles. A glass of champagne and pour and let the bubbles foam over into my other bubbles and just.
Can we make that a meme too and Photoshop your face on something?
It'll be nice. I like being right. I mean, who doesn't? It's been good. It's been a good run. My Newcastle one is going very well. My Arsenal one is going well. Not a good result of the weekend for Arsenal, but I'm feeling confident. Eventually, I'm going to go ice cold and everyone's going to come after me.
No. I don't know if this is too early to say, because I'm going to just assume that Inter either win or tie this game and Barcelona's out of the Champions League. But Barcelona right now is so overrated.
Yeah.
And the fan base needs a hardcore reality check.
Yeah, it's they've invested a lot for short-term success that hasn't come.
Mm-hmm.
I think the loss against Real Madrid kind of shows where they are in the La Liga as well. So they're not a million miles away by any means. They have a lot of good players, but they're not close either. No. So long way to go.
So when I said that Jude Bellingham should have won the Copa Trophy over XAVI, Barcelona fans told me that the only reason why Bellingham did well is because he's in a farmers league. By that logic, at this moment in time, you guys are a farmers team, because to be back-to-back Champions League rejects headlining the Europa League is wild. And to me, it's not injuries aren't an excuse. The rebuild narrative isn't an excuse, because you are led by Xavi with world-class footballers on your team. We can list them: Lewandowski, Gavi, Pedri, Frankie de Jong, Dembele, and more. Like we can go honestly throughout the whole roster. That you guys now putting the fate of your Champions League run in the hands of Inter is scary. Like, it should not happen. And until Barcelona is able to have a solid Champions League run and address issues that happen in the game in the past, that they're going into, like, when they go into that next game, until they're able to address everything and clean it up and have a solid Champions League run, I do not think they're as good as everyone thinks they are. And I think that they have great potential, but for now, they are overrated.
Yeah, they are overrated. And I think a big part of it for me is Xavi. Like, he's just got to gain the experience. We mentioned it on the last show. He's not coached at a high level for a while, and it's going to take time. Like, there's probably a lot of personalities in that room, but at the end of the day, they're Barcelona. They're always going to be able to attract the best players, and it won't be long before they make their way back. But yeah, to say, I don't know. I don't think Gavi should have won that award. I think it was Bellingham. Gavi's probably like 2 or 3 to his defense, but Yeah, I don't know. But
he's not bad by any means. I'm actually really he's definitely not bad. I'm really looking forward to watching him play. I'm going to keep a close eye on him today against Bayern Munich. But Jude Bellingham, what he's doing at Dortmund is amazing to see. And, you know, I just am so tired of this Bundesliga narrative about the Farmers League when Barcelona, I'm sorry, but to be out of the Champions League and back-to-back, and I'm going to assume that's what's going to happen here today, it's just Barcelona growing up for me was the most iconic club. When Serie A kind of started to like fade out, Barcelona was the club. Yeah. And for this to be happening with, again, signings like Lewandowski, who I think he's the top scorer in La Liga, it can't be happening.
It is unacceptable.
I agree. I say that every show, but honestly, it's like my saying, it's unacceptable.
Standards are low.
Yeah, so that's what it is. I'm going to take a second to give our friends Uber One a shout out because instead of saving on food delivery with your Eats Pass, you now can get an Uber One membership that provides discounts on both Uber and Uber Eats, which includes grocery. Uber One is a membership to save on deliveries, groceries, rides, and more. $0 delivery fee, $5 off of rides and off of Eats. Sign up today. We're members, and we'd love for you to be a part of the Uber One membership team.
Join us.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on, Liam, before we sign off and get ready to watch some Champions? What are the Champions?
Easy.
You're way better than me.
Something like that.
Sorry for anyone listening. Your ears are probably bleeding right now. I'm extremely tone deaf, so I don't even know what I'm saying.
Well, I can't think of any way to top that. Extra. So maybe that's how I'll just leave the show. I'll just sing the Champions League song as we disappear.
Guys,
that
should be our presented by Uber One. We'll be back tomorrow because there's so many games today. Quickly, just to go. 2-0 Inter. Sorry, Barcelona fans. I like Barcelona. I want to make this very clear before I hop off. I like Barcelona fans or Barcelona. The fans that are crazy are the ones who need a reality check. And I'm going to...
I don't read my comments. So
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. If you guys want to know why I feel this way, please go read the comments on my social media pages. You'll understand. So today, who do we have? We have Barcelona, Marseille, Frankfurt, Ajax, Liverpool. Can't wait for that. Napoli, Rangers, Tottenham, Sporting.
Where is that Napoli game? Is it in Rangers or Napoli?
I have a feeling it's Napoli.
It is in Napoli.
So
there you go. Lots of good stuff.
We'll be back tomorrow with our recap and let us know what you think in the comments.
Goodbye.